He is the king of the swamp. One bite, and it's all over. But one small mistake, and he becomes the besieged one. Will the order of the swamp collapse? Crocodile versus hippopotamus. Why did the king of the swamp become a mere plaything? Late afternoon, the harsh, dry season has transformed the African swamp into a series of stagnant pools, each pool a ruthless arena of life and death. Here, silence is the supreme tactic of the ruler. Beneath the calm surface, a long, dark, motionless mass. The Nile crocodile. He is the embodiment of perfect evolution, reigning in the shadows with a cold gaze. The crocodile doesn't need to flaunt its power, for it knows, here, death doesn't come from noise, but from silence. Millions of years have forged this hunting machine, designed to control these swampy waters. The crocodile's hunting philosophy is absolute energy conservation. It doesn't waste energy on long chases. It waits. It knows that every prey, sooner or later, will come to the water's edge. And when it acts, the result is undeniable. With a bite force capable of overcoming a ton of pressure, the crocodile possesses one of the most powerful weapons on the planet. Its jaws are born to lock down and never let go. Its world is deep water, an advantage of surprise. It doesn't need a pack. It doesn't need warnings. In the water, the crocodile has never lost. It is the king of the swamp. That power is not a title. It is a command for survival. And now, the king is preparing to execute its command. Look, the first prey has fallen into the trap. A young wildebeest, it felt safe, just a little shallow water to quench its thirst in the dry season. It didn't realize it was standing on the edge of an abyss. The crocodile calculated the distance. The body, fueled by hours of pent-up energy, is unleashed instantly. This is an explosion of raw power. The end. No chance. The bite locks, the neck bones grinding under tremendous pressure. The prey doesn't even have time to understand what's happening. A drag into the water, followed by the signature death twist technique. In just a few twists, the prey is torn apart, all resistance stripped away. It's all over in less than 3 seconds. One bite, and everything is under control. Perfection, ruthlessness. That's the rule of the Swamp King. This one doesn't need a second strike. The complacency born of absolute success. The crocodile has proven, in these waters, everything submits to its jaws. The consequences of the action have arrived. The signs of a feast just ended spread throughout the swamp. The crocodile lay still, savoring its satiety and satisfaction after its victory. It had every right to be proud. It possessed the most powerful killing tool in the animal kingdom. Its strength was an unbreakable law of physics. From afar, in the twilight, large, dark heads watched the entire event. They were hippos, observing the crocodile's ferocity, but maintaining their distance. Their patience and sheer size were another tactic, a silent and overwhelming one. The next day, the crocodile moved again. The water was receding, forcing it to expand its hunting range. However, it made a geographical mistake. This shift inadvertently pushed it closer to the area the hippos had chosen as their final refuge during the dry season. The crocodile realized the water was shifting not from the wind, but from the movement of enormous masses. A force that disregarded the crocodile's laws had appeared within close proximity. The challenger has appeared, a hippo, nearly 3 tons of muscle and bone. This wasn't a predator. This was a territorial power. The crocodile suddenly found itself trapped. The shallow water had suddenly become enemy territory. It realized it had inadvertently wandered into the hunting grounds of an entire herd of adult hippos. Their underwater roars were a warning, a punishment. The crocodile was cunning. It knew its boundaries. An ancient instinct screamed, "Retreat." It retreated strategically, slowly, so as not to provoke its opponent. A clever, calculated move. The crocodile wanted to disappear, to regain its unexpected advantage in deeper, safer water. It glided slowly, maintaining minimal distance, and finally, it succeeded. It escaped the forbidden zone. It succeeded. The crocodile stopped. It seemed as though it had respected the boundary and saved its life. But it was in this moment of false safety that the apex predator's ancient instincts resurfaced, mingled with bitter complacency. The crocodile had witnessed the ease of subduing prey before. It was accustomed to the feeling of absolute control. How could a king pass up such an opportunity? And then it saw a gap, an undeniable weakness, a clumsy baby hippo standing at the water's edge. The distance between the baby hippo and its herd was just a misstep. It was a highly valuable target. A juicy morsel that the long dry season was beckoning. Reason told it to stay away, but the apex predator's DNA compelled it to advance. The crocodile gambled its life. It believed in the perfection of its bite. It thought it could finish quickly, in a classic snap. The adult hippo was the boundary. The baby hippo was the temptation. Greed had triumphed over survival instinct. The crocodile lunged, delivering a bite that lightly grazed the baby hippo's thick skin. The baby hippo's cry was the final declaration of war. The mother hippo and her herd charged forward, not to warn, but to punish the intruder who had trespassed into their territory and intended to kill their offspring. Their speed in the shallow, muddy water was terrifying, completely depriving the crocodile of its agility. A multitude of massive bodies, each weighing tons, formed a living steel wall surrounding it. The stage was lost. The crocodile, the strongest in the aquatic world, was being forced into a land-based battle of strength with no chance of winning. It strained, searching for depth, for a deadly pivot point, but the water was too shallow, divided by colossal masses of muscle. No direction, no depth. The surface of the water turned into a wall of rock. The white belly exposed to tons of muscle. The mother hippo's enormous jaws, though not predatory, were the perfect crushing tool. That's when the whole herd joined in. The crocodile was cornered. It had to endure the power of many huge jaws at once. The hippos used their large jaws to grip and push repeatedly. This was a physical assault. The crocodile was spun and tossed under the pressure of tons of muscle. The final push from the hippo herd caused the crocodile to flip over, exposing its soft white belly. That was the fatal weakness. The Swamp King had been forced to expose his most vulnerable part. The mother hippo's jaws slammed shut one last time. Not a prolonged, not a tearing. Just a terrifying, crushing force from multiple sides. The crocodile was chewed and tossed around like an inanimate object, no longer in control of its life or death. The one who once finished off its prey in 3 seconds now suffered a cruel punishment. The Swamp King had become a toy for the enraged hippos, tossed around like garbage, completely stripped of its authority. The battle had subsided, but this was not a meal. This was a punishment. Hippos don't eat crocodiles. This is a declaration of territory. This wasn't hunting. This was a death sentence for trespassing and threatening its young. The hippos had reinforced their rules. In this swamp, never touch our offspring. They left the crocodile behind, letting its wounds in the dry season decide its fate. The hippos had won. They remained vigilant, but didn't eat the carcass. The crocodile lay still, trying to move, but unable to. It was a warning, an event that completely changed the order of the waters. We witnessed the crocodile, the king of the swamp, being challenged. Other crocodiles were watching from afar. Would these crocodiles accept the new rules? In the next dry season, when the water is even shallower, who will have the longest memory? What are you looking forward to in the next story? Remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming stories of the wild animal world. In the midst of the calm sea of golden grass, the ground suddenly shook as if something huge was charging towards it. A predator at the top of the food chain had become prey. And if it was just a beat slower, it would be crushed. The herd of buffaloes chasing the lion. The moment of life and death. Dawn poured over the Serengeti like a flat golden silk. Dew still clung to the young grass, reflecting the light into thousands of tiny glittering particles. The air was still cool and humid, but below the ground, each small vibration was spreading out into deep, heavy, and steady beats like ancient drums. Then, from within the light mist, giant black shadows began to appear. Then, sharp black horns emerged, curved like sickles and thick as wrought steel. Huge, muscular bodies, broad chests and broad shoulders, advanced into a solid mass. The herd of Cape buffalo appeared. They do not walk alone. They move like a living fortress, a unified mass, bound together by a herd-protecting instinct so strong it borders on brutality. The Cape buffalo are not the fastest on the plains, nor are they as agile as big cats, but they possess something that very few creatures possess: absolute unity and a fierce determination to not retreat before any enemy. Each step they take causes the ground to shake slightly, creating a faint cloud of dust that flutters around their hooves. The leaders walk ahead, eyes wide, both alert and cold. Behind are the females and cubs, surrounded by a circle of adult males, a formation that even lions would think twice before approaching. Their backs are as big as stone walls, the dry mud that has caked into patches from the night before, making them all the more fierce. Their breaths come in a misty puff in the early morning air, mingling with the smell of damp earth and the heavy body odor of a species born to fight. When the herd of buffalo stopped, the space became heavy as lead. A slight toss of the leader's head was the signal for the whole group. All turned in the same direction as a single entity, not slowing down, not deviating, not being confused. That was how they had survived for thousands of years, in the middle of the fierce steppe, united, alert, and ready to rush into battle to the death if threatened. The air on the grassland began to thicken. In the herd of buffalo that was moving steadily, a deep roar rang out. The whole herd immediately spread out into a circle. No one dared to push in. No one made a sound. Only the two warriors stood facing each other, their breaths blowing thin wisps of smoke into the air. Then the two bodies weighing nearly a ton rushed into each other like two living stones. The collision of horns created a sharp, distant sound, like the sound of metal being pounded hard. The ground under their feet cracked into small grooves. Dust swirled up in swirls. The fight lasted only a few dozen seconds, but its ferocity was enough to make even a predator hesitate to approach. Finally, the weaker buffalo retreated, slowly lowering its head. It did not fall, just accepted defeat. The winner kicked the mud off its horns, raised its head high, and stomped the ground one last time, as if declaring its new power in the herd. There was no bloodshed, no pursuit. Just the natural law of a battle to establish position, maintain order, and protect what belonged to the herd. After the brief but fierce conflict, the air gradually quieted. The Cape buffalo herd stood silent for a moment, as if the whole herd were breathing in unison to stabilize the newly established order. The buffalo began their new journey. The sunlight poured on their backs, turning each rippling muscle under their thick hides into distinct patches of light and dark. The wind blew, carrying the smell of hot, dry grass, cracked earth, and the distant scent of water, which the herd was longing for. The Cape buffalo herd migrates according to a very unique logic. They do not move fast, but they move constantly. They do not choose the shortest path, but the safest path for their young. And when they move, the whole herd moves like a living wall, surrounded by males, females, and young in the middle of a solid fortress. After many hours of moving on the dry grasslands, the air in front of them gradually changes. The wind carries a cool, moist smell. No longer the smell of dry, cracked earth and hot dust, but the smell of life, the smell of water, and the smell of young grass regenerating. The buffalo herd speeds up slightly. And then, through the layer of yellow, tattered grass, a strip of green appears like an oasis in the sea of sunlight. A wide depression, filled with new grass after the rain a few weeks ago. In the middle is a shallow lake. The water surface reflects the light into shimmering silver patches. The water in the lake has just calmed after the heavy footsteps of the Cape buffalo herd, when the surrounding air suddenly changes. From the tall yellow grass, silhouettes slid out. At the front were 3 long-bodied lionesses, their muscles bulging slightly under their burnt yellow fur. Their eyes shone in the slanting sunlight, cold and sharp as knives, calculating every move of their prey. Behind them was a young lion, smaller but fast and reckless, tasked with forcing the direction and cutting off the buffalo herd when necessary. They crouched low, their bellies almost touching the ground, each step so light that it made no sound. The lions did not advance together. They spread out in an arc, an ancient tactic, steady and effective. The lions locked on their target. The young buffalo was only a few dozen meters away from them, enough for a lightning attack. But at the moment, their attack was only a few steps away from the young buffalo. A male buffalo leader suddenly roared, a deep roar like thunder reverberating across the steppe. The lions realized they had been discovered. The other buffalo joined forces. No longer on the defensive, they counterattacked with all their rock-heavy strength. The lions began to disperse, but it was too late. The buffalo herd had become a giant fighting machine. They crushed the ground under their hooves, roaring in waves of threatening sounds, forcing the lions to retreat. The youngest lions were terrified, running in all directions to avoid being gored. Even the female leader was forced to retreat, looking back with a helpless look. The attack had completely failed. In the chaotic footsteps, the lions retreated into the bushes. Behind them, the buffalo herd still stood as a wall. The dust settled. The lake was calm again. But the echoes of that confrontation still vibrated in the air, a heroic song of strength and unity. Night fell over the Serengeti as lightly as a thin black curtain. The menacing roars of the afternoon had disappeared, leaving only heavy breathing and the mist on their thick fur. Then, like a great breath of nature, the eastern sky began to change color. From the horizon, a thin streak of light appeared, spreading out like a brushstroke on the purple sky. The night dew slowly evaporated, creating shimmering streaks under the new dawn. The first golden light of the day fell on the grass, covering the buffalo's bodies with a layer of honey-like color. The female buffaloes, who had just gone through the chaos of the previous day, raised their heads high, their eyes softening in the cool air. And it was in that moment of dawn that the rhythm of the buffalo herd's life began to change. The calving season had arrived. The female buffaloes with large bellies moved more slowly, occasionally stopping to catch their breath. Their legs were heavy, but their steps were full of determination. The entire herd unconsciously adjusted their formation, with the males moving closer together, forming a wide barrier to protect the females about to give birth in the center. In the soft, moist hollow where the green grass was still covered with morning dew, a female buffalo gradually separated from the herd. Its breathing became heavier, its chest heaving with each gentle breeze that swept across the ground. It bowed its head low, its front legs slackening, a clear sign of the moment of birth. The calf slid out of its mother's body, falling onto the soft, dewy grass, emitting a soft, damp sound, the sound of life just born. Its body was still wet, its fur was dark, its legs were curled up, trembling as if it had no strength at all. It tried to move, its small head moving up in response to its primitive instinct to stand up immediately. It bowed its head down, starting to lick the membrane and amniotic fluid clean, its licks strong but full of care. Dawn poured golden light onto the backs of mother and child, as if marking a sacred moment in the middle of this harsh steppe. Life had won once again. Dawn gradually rose higher. The golden sunlight spread across the fields like a warm carpet, gathering all the fear and chaos of the previous day. In the middle of the sea of dew-drenched grass, the young buffalo stood trembling beside its mother, its eyes wide open, looking at the strange but warm world in its first moments of life. The surrounding buffalo herd gradually closed its formation, no longer looking back to find the enemy. But turned towards the future, where the newly born life was beginning to take its first steps. But for the Cape buffalo herd, joy was short-lived. Life always came with responsibility. And their greatest responsibility at this time was to lead the new generation to find a new source of life. The shallow water was only enough to last for a few days. The newly grown green grass would also dry up quickly when the herd of dozens of buffalo continuously grazed. The great Serengeti steppe never stood still, forcing the creatures in it to constantly move. The north carried the scent of distant water vapor. To the west, the scent of soft earth signaled a new pasture. It tossed its head, signaling the herd. The formation tightened. The males went first. The females followed their young. A resurrected fortress began to move. And so, under the full light of the new day, the Cape buffalo herd set out again. Not to escape predators, not to fight for power, but to find the source of life that would determine the survival of an entire new generation. That journey would take them across sunburned grass, across muddy lakes, facing lurking herds of predators. But for the Cape buffalo, the journey never ended. Because in a place where life is as fragile as morning dew, only those who know how to move forward will be able to survive. But the journey of the buffalo herd did not stop there. A new challenge and a completely different battle for survival awaited them ahead. Stay tuned for the next episode. Crazy Escape. Cape buffalo faces crocodile encirclement. And don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on future wildlife survival series. Like a block of black steel, its crisscrossing scars are its metals. The predator believes it can use its numbers to crush its prey. Wrong. The warthog turns, goring its enemy into the air. This is not prey. This is a fighter. When the pack of wild dogs fails against a stubborn prey, the Botswana grasslands, at the height of the dry season, appear like a cracked arena, where the yellow of burnt grass stretches to the horizon. Amidst the scorching sun, a mature male warthog emerges, sullen and steadfast. It doesn't possess the grace of an antelope or the majesty of a lion, but it exudes the rugged resilience of someone who has weathered countless dangers. The crisscrossing scars on its thick, gray hide are evidence of past life or death battles. Its most fearsome weapon is its pair of curved, razor-sharp tusks, as hard as boulders, capable of piercing the skin of any aggressor. To maintain its strength, this warrior constantly digs through the dry, hard soil in search of succulent roots. A lone hyena, consumed by hunger and recklessness, tried its luck by attacking from behind. But it made the biggest mistake of its life. Instead of fleeing, the warthog suddenly spun around with astonishing speed for its bulky body. It lowered its center of gravity, gained momentum, and exploded like an armored vehicle. With a powerful headbutt, its tusks plunged into the attacker's chest, sending the hyena flying into the air before it could comprehend what was happening. The dry crash and the agonizing scream of the defeated were a resounding affirmation. This wasn't just prey. This was a true warrior of Botswana. Behold the absolute dominance of the warthog in its territory. It strode about, unfazed by any single threat, but the atmosphere began to change. The prairie wind suddenly died down, and small birds on high branches began to chirp in alarm. In the distance, where the thorny acacia bushes intertwined, something was moving with terrifying discipline and silence. Not a lone hunter, but an army. The first specks of fur emerged from behind the hazy dust. African wild dogs. They didn't charge immediately, but fanned out, surrounding him from all sides. The wild dog's eyes held no hesitation of the hyena before. They carried the cold gaze of those who enforce justice in numbers. The power struggle had officially begun, and for the first time that day, the warthog felt a truly suffocating pressure engulfing it. Since the arrival of the pack of wild dogs, the Botswana savanna had become a stage of ruthless patience. The wild dogs avoided a direct attack to prevent a repeat of the unfortunate hyena's fate. Instead, they employed a mobile siege tactic. Each wild dog took turns lightly biting the warthog's hock or hip before immediately retreating. They didn't need an immediate fatal wound. They needed the warthog to move, to maneuver, and to expend energy under the scorching sun. The warthog began to feel the weight of their numbers. It could no longer calmly dig roots, but was forced to keep its back against a thicket of thorns to avoid being attacked from behind. Its eyes were bloodshot from smoke, dust, and exhaustion, but its head remained low, its fangs still pointed directly at those lurking around. This was psychological torture. The short, harsh barks and constant movement of the pack of dogs left the prey with no moment to breathe. The wild dogs won through persistence, and they believed that with just a little more time, this living fortress would crumble from exhaustion. A thick cloud of red dust rose, obscuring the hunters. The warthog was beginning to gasp for breath, its massive chest heaving, sweat mixing with blood from small scratches trickling down its thick skin. But it was at this critical moment that the warthog's stubborn nature kicked in more forcefully than ever. Instead of panicking and fleeing an action that usually leads to a swift death, it chose to stand still like a statue. The sudden silence of its prey unsettled the pack of wild dogs. Each time a wild dog dared to approach too closely, the warthog would deliver a powerful stomp that shook the ground, accompanied by a sharp snort. It was no longer a fleeing target for the pack of dogs to easily devour. It had transformed itself into an iron spike, driven deep into the ground. The wild dogs began to sense something unusual. This prey showed no signs of weakening over time, but rather seemed to become more resilient with each wound. Tension reached its peak when Alpha of the pack stepped forward, directly confronting the warthog's tusks. A deadly silence enveloped the space, broken only by the wind whistling through the withered acacia trees. All calculations of exhaustion had failed, and now the pack had to make a decision: either attack desperately or accept defeat against an opponent that knew no surrender. In the thick, deathly atmosphere, Alpha decided to end this protracted game. It signaled the pack to tighten their encirclement, closing the distance to less than 2 meters. Alpha lunged forward, aiming a bite at the prey's rear, but it underestimated a creature cornered. Instead of retreating, the warthog unleashed the power of a 1,000-horsepower engine. It charged straight at Alpha with unimaginable speed. Alpha, though agile, couldn't completely dodge this furious counterattack. The entire pack of wild dogs froze. The scenario they had devised had been shattered by the very prey they had scorned. The warthog didn't stop there. It continued to charge into the midst of the panicked pack, roaring and wildly baring its fangs, turning the battlefield into a reverse retreat. The hunt officially ended. The remaining wild dogs, who had always acted under Alpha's leadership, were now completely disoriented. They saw their supreme leader lying in agony, his fur stained crimson. A terrible rift in trust began to spread. In the world of wild dogs, Alpha's defeat at the hands of a single prey was a sign of unforgivable weakness. The synchronicity, the greatest strength of the wild dogs, had vanished. They retreated in disarray, their barks no longer rhythmic, only solitary individuals fleeing in humiliation. The warthog stood tall in the open field, its chest still heaving after the battle, but its amber eyes shone with the pride of a victor. It had taught the pack of dogs a bloody lesson. Iron will can break any discipline, and a stubborn prey can overturn a dynasty. The barks of the wild dogs had faded beyond the horizon, but the recent battle had drained the warthog's last drops of energy. Its chest heaved violently, its thick gray skin now matted with dried blood and red dust. The victory over the pack of dogs was a miracle, but it left a deadly after effect, a burning thirst. Under the late afternoon sun of Botswana, the warthog's throat was as dry as the desert. It needed water immediately. Survival instinct guided its heavy legs toward a quiet pond not far away, the only place where it could recover, but also the dwelling place of predators even more patient than wild dogs. The pond appeared before the warrior like a paradise oasis in the heart of the fiery savanna. Under the golden sunset, the surface of the lake was as still as a giant mirror, without a ripple, without a sound. This stillness was so gentle that one would forget that this was the place harboring the most brutal dangers of Botswana. With the instincts of a seasoned animal, the warthog stopped at the water's edge, its ears slightly perked up to detect the slightest vibration. However, extreme exhaustion from the battle with the pack of wild dogs had dulled its senses. Unbeknownst to it, just a few paces away, two small, dark specks rose from the water like two pieces of rotting wood drifting by. These were the eyes of a gigantic Nile crocodile, a monstrous creature that had survived dozens of dry seasons with chilling patience. The crocodile didn't move. It lay motionless beneath the black mud, its heart rate lowered to conserve energy, waiting for the moment its opponent was most vulnerable. To it, the wounded warthog wasn't a brave warrior, but simply a nutritious mass of meat, walking straight into the jaws of death. The warthog snorted softly, the cool water's scent masking the pungent, foul odor of its hidden predator. It didn't know that beneath its own reflection in the lake, a jaw with a biting force of tons was slowly opening in the darkness of the swamp. The surrounding space suddenly became eerily silent, as if the entire savanna were holding its breath, watching every move, waiting for a terrifying explosion about to erupt from beneath the calm water. The moment the warthog's dry tongue touched the cool water, a brief sensation of pleasure deceived all its senses. It was the fatal opening the crocodile had been waiting for hours. Boom! With the speed of a steel spring compressed to its limit, the aquatic monster leaped up from nowhere. A massive, rough, and black mass of muscle overwhelmed the warthog's vision. Before the warrior could react, the crocodile's sharp teeth snapped shut like a bear trap, sinking directly into its snout and left canine. The terrifying force of the bite dragged the warthog towards the deep pool. The crocodile didn't stand still. It used its massive body weight to perform a deadly spin, the reptile's most brutal attack, designed to tear through tissue and break bones. Splashes of water and black mud flew, stained red by the hot blood that began to gush from its fresh wounds. The exhaustion from the earlier fight with the pack of wild dogs had now become its death sentence. The muscles that had once propelled it through its enemies were now weak and yielding under the pressure of the water and the mechanical strength of the crocodile's jaws. The violent waves began to subside. The lake, which had just erupted in violence, gradually returned to its deathly stillness. Only a few patches of pink foam and ripples remained where the warrior had stood just minutes before. The crocodile slowly dived to the bottom of the lagoon, carrying its spoils into the darkness. The warthog's sacrifice left a silent void on the rocky shore. The proud tusks that once triumphed over the pack of wild dogs now lie forever beneath the deep mud. The savanna has no place for mercy. It only records the interconnected links of life and death. The warrior conquered a kingdom on land, but fell before a silent killer beneath the water at the very moment it sought survival. Do you think the warthog's escape from the pack of wild dogs was pure luck? Leave your comments below the video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next wildlife survival series.